5 reasons Putin is losing the war against Ukraine. It's been almost 2 years since Russian President Vladimir Putin annexed Crimea from Ukraine, and the war in eastern Ukraine continues to grind on with no end in sight. Some observers have argued that Putin is losing the conflict as Russia becomes increasingly isolated internationally and economically strained at home. Others contend that Putin is still very much in control of the situation, and that any talk of his defeat is premature. So who is right? Is Putin losing the war against Ukraine? Let's take a look at the evidence. 1. Economic sanctions are taking a toll on Russia. One of the most significant factors working against Putin is the economic sanctions that have been imposed on Russia by the West since the annexation of Crimea. These sanctions have cut off Russian banks from international capital markets, restricted Russian companies' access to Western technology, and limited Russian individuals' ability to travel abroad or invest their money in Western assets. In addition, low oil prices have hit Russia hard, as energy exports account for a large chunk of the country's GDP. All of this has had a negative impact on Russia's economy, which is now in recession, and as the economic situation deteriorates, Putin's approval ratings have begun to slip. 2. The Russian military is overstretched. While it's true that the Russian military is much better equipped and trained than the Ukrainian forces, there is only so much that Moscow can do to support the rebel fighters in eastern Ukraine. The Russian military is already stretched thin by its involvement in Syria, and it would be difficult to sustain a prolonged conflict in Ukraine as well. In addition, Russia has been pulling back some of its troops from the Ukrainian border in recent months, indicating that Moscow is not planning to launch a major offensive in the near future. 3. Putin is becoming increasingly isolated. While Putin may still have some friends in the international community, he is becoming increasingly isolated as a result of his actions in Ukraine. Even traditional allies like China and India have been critical of Russia's involvement in the conflict, and Putin has been cold-shouldered by Western leaders. This isolation has had consequences for Russia economically and diplomatically, and it is likely to continue if the situation in Ukraine does not improve. 4. The Ukrainian military is getting stronger. Despite being outgunned and outmanned, the Ukrainian military has made significant progress in recent months in its fight against the Russian-backed rebels in the east. The Ukrainian forces have been better trained and equipped by the West, and they have made steady gains on the battlefield. In addition, Ukrainians have become more united in their support for the government since the start of the conflict, and this has made it easier for the military to recruit new soldiers. 5. The rebels are losing ground. The rebel groups in eastern Ukraine have been under increasing pressure from the Ukrainian military in recent months, and they have lost control of several key cities. This territorial loss has dealt a serious blow to the rebels' morale, and it has made it more difficult for them to receive supplies and reinforcements from Russia. As a result, the rebels are in an increasingly precarious position, and their ultimate defeat seems only a matter of time. So, what does all this evidence add up to? It's clear that Putin is facing a number of serious challenges in his war against Ukraine. The economic sanctions are taking a toll on Russia, the military is overstretched, and Putin is becoming increasingly isolated. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian military is getting stronger and the rebels are losing ground. All of this suggests that Putin is not in a strong position to win the war against Ukraine. Subscribe to World News Channel for more live updates.